Mr. John Kennedy is the state treasurer for the state of Louisiana. Mr. John, a pleasure to have you back again. How you been?
I've been well, Robert. Except we've been in a legislative session, and I've been through enough of those that it's not uninteresting. It's just not. Sometimes it's not fun.
Let's back up just a little bit. Last week, the governor's budget passed the state house. It was 63, 38, something along those lines. It passed rather easily. Surprisingly, I thought, for a Republican-dominated legislative body. Did that surprise you at all?
A little bit. I think the governor politically, frankly, outmaneuvered the legislature.
Explain to me as simply as I can, because I'm not good at that stuff. I'm mildly dysgraphic. Explain to me how he did that so that even I can get it.
Well, let's look at the facts first. Fact number one, the state has raised taxes about $2 billion. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Last legislative session, last spring, they raised taxes on business. In the first special session of this year, they raised taxes on individuals. About $2 billion. That's fact number one. Fact number two, if you look at the budget they passed, it's $2 billion more than last year's budget. Okay? So, fact number three, we're not out of money. I mean, the total amount of money spent next year, our year begins July 1, if you add in all in, it's going to be about $30 billion. Actually, about $31 billion. So we're not broke. The governor has set up the situation, it's an artificial crisis, of where, by his choosing, TOPS wouldn't be funded unless the legislature in the special session that he's just called agrees to raise personal income taxes.
You think that's, while we're on that, tell me the two or three things, and Lord knows it'll probably be more than that, but in your mind, the two or three things, the biggest tax increases or fee increases that the governor's shooting for in the special session.
Personal income tax, without a doubt. He wants to raise personal income taxes. He's raised just about every other tax, and this is what he has left. My argument is, and I think a lot of people in the legislature agree with me, we don't need to do it. My gosh, they just raised $2 billion worth of taxes. We ought to wait and see if they work.
Is he going for gas tax increase too, do you think?
He is not going for gas tax. That's the one tax he says he's not going to do.
Interesting. Let me read something to you. Hold on a second. My phone just went blank. This was from Alan Seabaugh, Representative Alan Seabaugh. Boy, has that poor cat been a target lately. Alan Seabaugh's Facebook page from last week. Louisiana House of Representatives, blah, 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 passed Governor Edwards' budget, cuts TOPS by half. You had mentioned that. And here's the next line that really, really, really affects the people up here. And closes, I'm assuming he means effectively will close, the LSU Medical School in Shreveport by underfunding it by $38 million. Do you agree with that?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Now, I don't agree it's going to close, but I do agree with Alan, who's a good guy, by the way. I do agree with Alan that the governor has pretty much manufactured this crisis. He's put TOPS at risk. He's put many of our hospitals and therefore our med schools at risk.
Mr. John, pardon me, and you can comment on this too, and I don't mean to cut you off, but this is kind of important. We have had state representatives, legislators on this show who have proffered the idea that if the LSU school up here closed, that John Bell wouldn't be the saddest guy in the world. Do you think that's true?
I hope it's not true. Look, we can't deliver health care in this state without the medical school in Shreveport. I mean, that's just a fact. We won't have enough doctors. In fact, damage is already being done while the governor, I don't mean any disrespect. I like the governor personally. I respect the office of governor, but he's playing politics with this stuff to try to raise personal income taxes. And these faculty members read all this, and the prospective residents read all of this, and they don't care about the politics. They just want to be doctors and nurses and allied health professionals. And a lot of them are going, you know what? We don't care who's right or wrong. I think we'll just go over to Texas to get trained.
You know, Mr. John, for a lot of the tax increases the governor wants that will be introduced in the special session, going to need a supermajority. Do you think he can get that?
No, I don't. I hope not. Now, some of his income tax bills, he's going through the back door and has a legal ruling that he doesn't need a 2/3 vote. He only needs a majority vote. I hope they won't do it. Look, we got $31 billion to spend, $2 billion more than last year. So the suggestion that we can't fund the LSU Medical School in Shreveport, or we can't fund TOPS, is ludicrous. The governor may choose not to fund them and choose to fund something else.
Doesn't that harken back to my previous statement about the med school up here?
Well, I just don't want to. I would never ascribe a motive like that to somebody without knowing. I don't think there's. I don't want to believe there's any intention on anybody's part to purposely hurt our med school there.
No,
if they do, they're hurting Louisiana.
I didn't want you to infer that. That's not what I meant to imply. But on the other hand, if you've got to list priorities, in your mind, is the med school here all that high on the list?
Well, of course it is. It should be if the governor's chosen not to put it there.
See, what I mean is not to you and me, but to the governor and his people in the legislature.
Well, look, that's why I'm saying these are the facts. We've got $31 billion to spend next year, number one. Number two, they've raised $2 billion. They can't argue we're out of money. They can't argue we don't have money. So by listing their priorities of what to spend, the governor has said, I'm not going to spend the money on TOPS, and I'm not going to spend the money on health care, including but not limited to our medical schools, which creates this artificial crisis, which puts pressure on the legislature, and he wants the legislature to cry uncle and raise personal income tax.
One final question.
What's going on.
One final question before we let you go, and thank you, as always, for joining us. Trying to get to, in fact, they reached out to us, John Bell and his folks, to be on tomorrow morning with us.
Good. Bring them on.
One question you want to ask the governor. If you want me, I'll pass it along. What's the question?
How can you possibly, no disrespect, Governor, that's the first thing I'd say, but how can you possibly argue that we don't have enough money to fund our priorities when we're spending $2 billion, actually more than $2 billion, this new fiscal year than last year, and you've raised $2 billion worth of new taxes? Name the amount of money, Governor, that you want from taxpayers that'll deliver excellence for Louisiana so you'll never come back and ask for more. Name it. Just give me the figure.